This is Declan McGonigal with the My Beach Business Podcast, where we talk with local business owners and investors on a variety of subjects. I hope you enjoy the show, and thanks for listening. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of STR Unlocked. This is technically our second season now, and we've got a really cool guest in Madison Rifkin. And it's so awesome to have you here. I appreciate you coming on. This is really like the first property management focused podcast that we're doing. In the past, it's been a lot of business owners, but this is sort of the direction I want to go down and kind of the passion I have. So happy to have you here. Why don't you sort of introduce yourself and just give everybody a little background on who you are and Mount?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me on. My name is Maddy Rifkin. I'm the CEO and founder of Mount. So we essentially are a company that finds the world's best hidden gems, the off the beaten path stuff, the hyper local activities, essentially everything you do when you're traveling other than stay at a property. That's what we find. And then we make that available to your guests. So you as a property manager or host can curate your list of all these amazing hidden gems. Think of it like a concierge tool. And that you can now offer to your guests so they can find everything, trust those recommendations, and really just have a great stay past just the property.
Awesome. And talk a little bit about how Mount is broken down now. I know I kind of got into it because I was interested in the concierge part would be for the property managers, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Gotcha. And then you also have the curator part, which is more for the people building the experiences, and then the traveler part, obviously the people experiencing it, right?
Yeah, so we gave everyone some pretty fun names. Whether or not that sticks 5 years from now, we'll see. But yeah, we like to say Mount is a three-sided marketplace. And really who we bring together is the property manager host, because that is really where your guest is going to stay. Then we have your guest, but that's actually known as the traveler. So we have their side and point of view. And then the thing that brings us all together are these local business owners, whether they're offering an experience, a place to eat, a coffee shop. It might not actually be hosted by a local business, but it could be like an undiscovered hike, really something that makes your market special. That's what is known as like a hidden gem. Also, we call them curators that actually put on those experiences.
Awesome. And so originally it was just, Mount was really, it didn't have the concierge part, right? It was just the curator connecting with the traveler. Is that correct?
Kind of. Mount's been through like a lot of changes, and
Okay.
It's funny because I used to go on a lot of podcasts, and if you heard an episode from like 2.5 years ago, you'd think we were a scooter company because that's originally what we were doing. But we've made so many changes, and really for us, it's always been how do we connect the three parties the best, and who are we focusing on? So for the last 1.5 years, our sole focus was actually optimizing the product for property managers and hosts.
Gotcha.
And now we've done that. So now our next focus is on actually the traveler and really making sure what we categorize as a hidden gem is actually what they think a hidden gem is. Because we did lose control of our supply a little, it got way too big, and travelers were like, oh, I don't know if this is a true hidden gem. And so we really are going back to that now to make sure what these hosts offer truly is what makes that market special.
Absolutely. And are the hidden gems per se, are those found through the property managers? Do you guys go out and find those experiences in each market, or how are those kind of assembled onto Mount?
So we do not go and do that, and I'll tell you why. We really believe that the hidden gems are either discovered by locals from your point of view of actually living there, or from a traveler that has talked to a local and found it that way. So all of the hidden gems are now crowdsourced, and this is actually new to Mount. We didn't used to do this, but now they're crowdsourced. So you have to go through a nomination process, and you can do this as a property or manager or host. Like if you are a local or you just have been there for a while and you're like, I know these local businesses, hidden gems exist, let me nominate them. Travelers can also do that. And so you have to tell us what it is, why you're nominating it, like the insider tips that you wouldn't know unless you've already been there. And then it goes through our internal vetting process. So once it's been nominated, we actually go and make sure it fits into what Mount is actually trying to represent. Is it sustainable, ethical, responsible, hyper local, all of those things? And if it passes all of that, then it gets into the system.
Gotcha. That's awesome. Yeah, I really like that. And that's kind of what attracted me to it, is there are some other, there's options out there. There's so many vendor options in the vacation rental world, right? Let alone, but there's some options out there in terms of, companies that kind of, I guess, I don't know what I guess facilitate these experiences.
Totally.
But what I think is unique about Mount, at least from my understanding of it, is that you're focused on some of those more unique things, right? Like
Yeah.
I can go on TripAdvisor and find, the top 10 activities and the top 10 restaurants. But what I found, and I'll relate it to food because I'm kind of a foodie. When I go to a city, I love finding those sort of hole in the wall food spots that the locals know about. You know what I mean? And I think that's kind of the cool thing about Mount. It's you get those unique things, and it's also a way for property managers to sort of differentiate, what they do from the next company over, right?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, so that's
It's
awesome.
really interesting that you brought that up because I do think there are so many vendors in our space now. I don't know if we're going through a consolidation moment or
Mhm.
like a boom in vendor moment. I haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah,
But either way, there's a ton of guidebook companies out there, even property management
yeah,
companies that offer some sort of guest facing tool.
yeah.
And they're all doing, which is kind of what we did in the beginning too.
Mhm.
They're pulling from the existing supply that's out there. So it's
Mhm.
experiences found on TripAdvisor,
Yeah.
Google. A common company that aggregated all of this is Viator.
Mhm.
The European one is Get Your Guide.
Mhm.
And so there's all this information out there, but I think what everyone failed to do, which we are now doing, is actually talk to the traveler and the
Right.
guest.
Right. Right.
And that stuff that you're putting in your guidebook or the stuff that your property management system is telling you to put in your guidebook
Mhm.
isn't at all what travelers
Right.
want. And I think, over the last 2 years, there's been a heavy emphasis on education and learning in our industry.
Yeah.
And I'm guilty of this of myself as well. It's like
Yeah.
vendors put themselves on stage and they talk about their products.
Yeah.
They try and push their products. Property managers talk about like what products they're using,
Yeah.
but no one has brought in the voice of the guest slash traveler.
Right.
And
Right.
so it turns out, oh, we went down this path of experiences in the entire industry and we were all wrong.
Yeah.
That's not what people want.
Yeah.
They want the undiscovered true local stuff, and
Yeah.
Mount seems to be one of the only companies being able to offer that right now.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I called out the vendors, but it's also true on the property management side. I mean, just with how well vacation rentals have done over the past couple of years, it's kind of the trendy thing. I feel like it was the trendy thing to get into from an investment point of view. Now it's like the trendy thing to start a management company. Like there's definitely a lot of management companies I've seen pop up over the past few years. And we're a competitive market too in Myrtle Beach, so that's bound to happen anyways. But with all those competitors, at least me, I try to think of like, okay, how can we stand out? How can we be a little bit different? What do we have to offer that the next company doesn't? And honestly, I talked about with the team today is guest centric. Like, do we really want to go far down the guest centric? And sure, everybody says that, but everyone also says owner centric. There's a lot of like messaging out there in terms of what values and kind of what your marketing differentiators are. So
And how do
yeah,
you balance all of that is
yeah,
another conundrum too.
absolutely, absolutely. So
What's interesting too? I was pleasantly surprised. So I just booked a short-term rental. I'm going to San Diego in a few
mhm.
weeks and had booked that. And I'm actually curating like hidden gems and things to do. It's a whole
Yeah.
like corporate type of event.
Mm,
I thought I had everything booked, and then I got the check-in instructions for the property with their guidebook,
mm.
and they had this bonfire company in there, and they're like, "Oh, you can do like a custom bonfire. We'll set it up on the beach."
Oh, wow.
And I was like, I didn't know that's what I was looking for, but that's
Yeah,
100% what I need to go do
yeah,
now.
yeah,
And I'm like, it's stuff like that's not like a touristy trap thing.
yeah,
That is simply actually something fun that is pretty unique to San Diego and beach towns.
yeah,
And I didn't grow up in a beach town. I've always
yeah,
wanted a beach bonfire. So I was like, yeah, stuff like that. That's
yeah. That you don't think about. No, that's a good point. Even like I've struggled to like put things in our guidebook that I think are like really local or unique because I think that's part of like you kind of get stuck in what you are and you don't really know like what is unique or valuable or different to other people. I've been here my whole life, so
yeah,
I know just about every experience or everything, every offering out there or every restaurant. But sometimes it is a little hard to like identify in your head what could be valuable or unique to the guests that are coming in. So that's actually a really good point that you made about making it sort of having the guests decide and nominate things and having
yeah.
everybody nominate things to see what comes up and what gets popular.
Yeah, and that's exactly kind of how our supply operates is you can upvote or downvote it as a traveler, not even just a guest of your property, but just our broad traveler community.
Wow.
So we're getting information on the quality of supply that way.
Mm,
And then the nominations coming from you guys as property managers or hosts or locals or travelers, like it all kind of culminates together so you get multiple perspectives, which I think is very helpful.
gotcha. And how is it doing? How's it doing in the U.S.? Like, have certain markets taken it up really well, and it's been slower in other areas, or is it kind of like a even distribution across? What's that been like?
You know, it's funny. I like to say we accidentally built Mount backwards as a startup as it goes, just
Okay.
because when we started Mount back in, I want to say it was like 2020, 21, that time frame, right around the time VCs were like, go for growth and don't go for profitability. The tune has now changed, but that's
Gotcha.
kind of what it was. And so we were like, all right, let's grow. And so we grew into 300 markets within like 9 months. It was
Wow.
insane.
Wow.
And it's simply because we did like a product led growth strategy. So we made it free to use. You could sign up anywhere. And if you signed up in a market where Mount wasn't, that's kind of where the nomination came in. And you can add in your recommendations of people that we should go work with, like
Yeah.
businesses wise. So we grew really fast. And that was not just in the US, actually, that was all across Europe.
Mm,
We had some in South Africa, South America, like all these
yeah.
places, kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But with that massive amount of growth, it was hard to learn in 300 markets because we still
Right.
had a lot to learn as a company. So
Yeah.
we did pare it back down, focused in on a few markets. And so one that's been doing really well for us is Fredericksburg, Texas, of all places.
Okay.
Super interesting market. Its population is about 11,000 people, so
Okay.
very small. But on the weekends, the population jumps to 50,000, just
Right.
about, because of
Wow.
how many travelers are coming in. And so they have 1,500 to 2,000 short term rental properties because
Wow.
it's not really, it wasn't built for tourism, so there isn't
Yeah.
hotels and stuff like that. It's purely like short term
Interesting.
rentals.
Okay.
And so we went and stood up the entire market. We actually went and vetted all the short term rentals. We vetted the hidden gems. We went in person, created content. So
Wow.
that whole market is now set up as like a Mount hidden gem community.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we aim to do now moving forward is like once we hit mass density in markets, like we'll go and make sure everything's set up properly and vetted and all
Gotcha.
that stuff.
Is there like a particular experience that you see popping up in every market, or does it sort of obviously I'm sure there's a wide range, but like like in that town, for example, is there anything in particular that's like really common
Well,
or
yeah, Fredericksburg specifically is like wine country, so it's the second
oh,
biggest wine area other than Napa. A
gotcha.
lot of people don't know that. I mean, I
Yeah,
didn't know that.
I had
They
no
have
idea.
over 100 wineries,
Wow.
and it's not like wine you would find like upstate New York. Like their upstate New York is like sweet wine, but they
Mm-hmm.
actually import all their grapes and vines and stuff from Italy.
Mm,
And then they have like these very nice. They're not Italian wines anymore; they're Texas wines, but
yeah,
they taste like Italian wines. Semi. I don't want to like piss off the world of wineries,
yeah, right.
uh, no, I was
That'd be
like
perfect.
pleasantly surprised. I'm like, oh
Yeah,
my god, this is good wine. So
yeah.
that's why a lot of people come, and then they attract a lot of bachelorette parties. So them specifically is like winery tours, tours you can do as groups, that type of stuff. But
Gotcha.
it really depends on markets. I'd say big metropolitan cities is like the foodie tours, the underground, like let's go to a few hidden
Yeah,
gems at the same time.
yeah.
Hot air balloons is like really popular
Mm,
these days. So
wow.
it just
Interesting.
depends.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. And so to back up a little bit, what was so I've listened to some podcasts on you, and I'll obviously gone through your website and whatnot, done a little bit of research. But what was your kind of background getting into all this? It looks like you've always kind of had that entrepreneurial spirit and even like an invention sort of spirit a little bit with the bike company. What was that like? Where'd you start with all this?
So yeah, I mean, background is like I did start this when I was 12. That's
Wow.
kind of when I was like, ooh, let's invent something and see what happens. And luckily my middle school, elementary school had a invention program you could do after hours. So I did that. I won it. I got a patent for the bike lock I had invented. So went through that process, which was super cool. And then yeah, it was just kind of bit with the entrepreneurial bug. I was like,
Mm,
ooh, let's figure out how I get to be my own boss. Let's be a CEO and hopefully change the world. And
yeah,
took me on this crazy path. I went to Northeastern University, studied entrepreneurship,
yeah,
officially started Mount, and then over the next few years while at school, and then after graduation as well, I was either raising money for Mount, winning competitions, so we got free money basically, and then just
mm,
like being scrappy as hell, trying to really make this work. And you know, I think if you ask someone in our industry what Mount is right now, they probably wouldn't be able to tell you because we've been through so many evolutions.
Right.
But really, I look at it as we're solving the core problem of this hidden gem travel.
Yeah.
It's just the way we do it keeps evolving because there are so many moving parts. I think it's why no one else has been able to solve it, is because you have short-term rental hosts and managers. You have the local businesses that are still coming online, even like a lot of them are still pen and paper operators.
Yeah.
And then you have the traveler whose preferences are always changing given social media and just like the fast pacedness of the travel industry. So bringing those all together is a constant battle every day, but a fun one we like to take on.
Yeah. How, so business is tough, right? Like business is so hard. Like I got into it and I thought it'd be easy. I started my management company about like 3 years ago. And I was like, oh, I'm coming into town. I've been here, you know, I know it really well. I know a lot of people. You know, I'm kind of a young guy. I understand technology and social media and all that sort of stuff, but it's hard, right? Like it's way harder when you actually get into it. What was that like, kind of undertaking such a big sort of vision, you know, and doing that on a national and even like global scale? You know what?
It's been so much fun. I mean, I enjoy going to the conferences and meeting other CEOs and people building companies and stuff. So you'll see me just out there. Like not at a booth. Like I don't like getting booths, and that's a whole other story to go down. But I do like showing up and networking. I think that's a ton of fun. One thing I do always push forward, especially on LinkedIn, like I am quite vocal about this, is the fact that social media can be so helpful when building your company from the vendor side, but also from the property management side. Like you need a brand and you need to build in public if you're going to attract, in this day and age, customers. You know, we don't like being sold to, we don't like ads. But if I'm watching you, for example, build your management company and I followed your story for a year and now I'm planning a trip, chances are I'm going to go to your place because I like you and I want to try it out, right? So same thing goes for Mount. I mean, in the last year, we've built our socials up to over 170,000 followers. I think we've reached, like, in the last year, 3 or 4 million people on social media and just really built the brand. And now I built, in the process also, I like built a content army.
Oh, nice.
Which are just like these traveling content creators who travel, post about Mount, but bringing it full circle because now we throw content creator retreats as part of Mount. And so we partner with property managers and we're like, hey, we're going to bring 15 influencers to your property for a few days. Like, let's work together. You guys get a ton of exposure. You also get to work with influencers. You didn't have to figure out how to vet them or find them. We do that for you. And then it's just like a win-win for everyone.
Interesting. And what like triggered the social media ideas, or I guess focus? Because I saw on your LinkedIn, it looked like you said last year you were really focused on, you know, events and conferences, and I love those too. You know, I'm going to them to learn. I guess it's a little different than on the vendor side, but what kind of got you in that? Were you listening to like Gary Vee and that got you excited about it, or what got you excited about social media?
No, so social media was actually, I mean, I just use it a lot personally, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, let's see what that is in the travel space. And then I have 2 founder friends, not from our industry, like they're founding other companies. And I saw them start to do it a little earlier than they started before Mount and I did. And it worked so well for them to the point where they now spend $0 on advertising and are able to generate double or triple the amount of sales, but all with 0 ad spend because it's all organic now on TikTok and Instagram because they built their brand presence up that strong. So I've seen it work for other brands. It's definitely time consuming and it's not an instant reward. Like it's taken us a year basically to get to where we are now. But now that we're here, it's like an unstoppable engine. And that's kind of what I like. What I was trying to bring back to our industry is like education about how to get your social media brand started as a property manager or host, and like why travelers, I think 80% of Gen Z uses Instagram and TikTok as their inspiration and discovery. So if you're on there as a brand, like they're going to be finding and planning their trip that way. And so they're not going to Google search and find you. Like, don't pay for SEO. Put your time and effort into organic social media. So I like talking a lot about that, but I think the unlock was just seeing the success of other founders and being like, oh, I can do that. It did feel very uncomfortable at first. I will 100% own up to that. Like, I really didn't like it. But now I have fun. I'm like, oh, I'm connecting with people all around the world. I had a video go viral while I was flying to London. So then it went viral in the UK, but then it jumped somehow into Africa. And I have followers in
Oh,
Uganda
wow.
and South Africa and all these
Holy cow.
places. And
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, now it's really gone
Yeah.
across the world
All
with
over. Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of cool. You know, those algorithms, those organic algorithms, just you really have no control over who it goes to. It feels like sometimes, which is a
no.
good thing for growth.
Oh,
But
totally.
yeah, it's
A little
funny.
risky, I think, at first. Like I will tell you, a lot of our investors don't understand how social media can be so impactful if it's
Yeah.
all organic
Yeah.
because it doesn't, and it makes sense, right? Like when you're looking at ROI and how to run a business, you're like, okay, I want to spend this amount to acquire a customer. So I'm going to put $10 into Instagram ads.
Mm-hmm.
That will give me 10 customers, $1 CAC.
Mm-hmm.
If I did that mental
Yep.
math correctly. But with organic, it's like, no, I'm going to post a video and maybe it'll get 100 views, but maybe it'll get a million and I just don't
Right.
know.
Right.
But that's what I want to do. So
So
it's interesting.
how do you what would you say? I mean, I'm just thinking about our company, but property management companies or whatever company, what do you think is the right approach when it comes to social media? Is it volume? Is it like getting out as much content as you can, seeing what works, and then building off of that? Or is it more quality over quantity approach?
I
What's
think it's a little of both because I have
okay?
tested both and it's just really hard to know. I would say when we were doing quantity over quality,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't performing as well, but it also wasn't like community building because I'm a big believer
Mm-hmm.
that you're building a community on social
Mm-hmm.
media and that's what gets people watching and coming back and really being invested. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're going for a quantity over quality, you're not going to community build and so you're really not going to create those people that are just always going to be talking about you. But
Gotcha.
if you go for quality, and I think specifically for property managers, it doesn't go to having professionally made content and
Mm-hmm.
shots of the property and drone shots and just showcasing the property itself. Like, yes, your property might be beautiful, but that's not why people are booking it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're going to book it because now they get to go surfing or now they get to go
Right.
on a donut tour. And so when we work with property managers and bring in creators, we always are like, okay, what are a few things they're going to be doing so that then you can show the property, highlight what they're doing, and then people in the comments are like, oh, where should I stay? And then you're like, well, I just tagged the property manager, so
Yeah.
that's where you should stay. And then you get the direct booking. So you kind of start with what to do and showcase that, and it leads them to where to stay.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And would you say there's a lot of opportunity um to kind of document and show those experiences on the property management page? Because yeah,
Absolutely.
thinking about it, like the most popular sort of page in our area is one that just shows like experiences and food and accommodations. But if you look at most of the property management posts, it's more just, really nice photos of
Yeah,
their houses and stuff, right? It's kind of the same
totally.
stuff over and over again.
And that's kind of why we got so deeply invested into this, like we call them hidden gems as opposed to experiences, because TikTok actually right now has started a hidden gem campaign
Oh,
and
wow.
they're paying creators to make content specifically on TikTok highlighting
Really?
hidden gems because
Really?
they've noticed people are really liking discovering them and
Yeah.
scrolling and watching that content. So they're heavily leaning into it and they're $1 billion company. So if they're heavily leaning into it, I feel like all of us should also be heavily leaning into it.
Absolutely.
Just if
Absolutely.
that's where they think it's going. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not going to doubt them. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, I'm 100% with you. Sometimes I get it's a little frustrating because like you said, sometimes you can go do a nice video or spend a lot of time putting into something and you get just minimal views or
totally.
minimal output. But it really is a long game, right? There's no
Oh,
way
yeah.
to quickly build brand.
No, and I think ways to expedite it for you guys too, just because I know from being in the industry, your time is very valuable and you
Yeah.
don't have a lot of it to spare.
Yeah.
Like if you can figure out how to work with influencers who are creating the content for you,
Mhm.
because that's even better, right? Because they're showing their own perspective of what it
Yep.
is to be a guest.
Yep.
That's gold.
Mm.
And they'll tag you and then it'll show up on both feeds. You can pay people to come in and create content that you get to use. It's called
Mhm.
user generated content.
Mhm.
There's like a lot of different ways to slice that so that you're not always the one clicking record and editing
Do it. Yep.
because that is a full-time job.
Absolutely.
So yeah, lots of ways to do it.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Very cool. Awesome. How did so a property manager wants to get started, what would he have to do to get started on Mount? What's kind of that process
Super
look like?
easy. You go to the website, so it's our old URL, which is rentmount.com.
Okay.
And you just click sign up and then sign up as a host. It'll just ask you for like your name and email basically. And then once you're in there, you can click create a mini marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
That's our concierge tool. And you just put in your location and it'll automatically populate with the hidden gems.
Wow.
If you look through that and you're like, oh, I know of some better ones, on your main dashboard, there's a place to nominate. So you just put in the local business and we'll get it uploaded or like through the vetted process. But other than that, yeah, very easy to get started.
And what is it? I should ask this. What does it look like on the guest end? Do they book through like do they book through like a Mount app? I've really got to go use it. I don't know why I haven't used it yet. Do they book through like the Mount app, or is it like a like if they come through us, is it like a co-branded website almost with like the My Beach Rentals and Mount? Like what does that look like?
So
How does
it
that work?
isn't so much co-branded, but it is leaning on you as like the local perspective because we figured that's what's building the most trust with them, and it feels less advertising that way. So
Yeah,
it would
yeah,
be
yeah.
your name, like this is my list of curated hidden gems, and it's web-based
Mm-hmm.
for the guest because making them download an app is just creating too many barriers. So
Mm-hmm.
web-based for them on their phone. They can see all the hidden gems, read more about it. If it is something that's bookable, it will take them to the place where it is booked. So that whether that be like the vendor's website, some third party website that vendor is using, really it was up to that local business.
Yep.
And then yeah, they can book it. They get like free cancellation, all that stuff. Some of the stuff isn't bookable, so it's just like getting a reservation at a restaurant or something like that. But that's how that works from the traveler perspective. And then since I'm on this podcast, you can get a sneak peek of what's coming next. But
Nice.
What we've realized is I was getting peppered with emails post the guests leaving because they fell in love with Mount. They're like, I want more hidden gems. And we don't work with every property manager and host. That would be awesome. So
right.
What we are rolling out next is that traveler facing app so they can continue getting the hidden gems every time they travel and just keep living and traveling the Mount way, which is to find the hidden gems.
That's awesome. That's very cool to see. Very cool to see, Colin. Awesome. Well, this has been great. I appreciate you coming on. Is there anything else that you think is important to talk about or bring up or?
No, I don't think so. If you're a PM interested in a content creator retreat, like we're very much into those, so you can definitely reach out to me on LinkedIn. And if you are in the mood for a laugh or a hot take, follow me on LinkedIn because I keep it real there.
Yeah, no, you're a great follow on there, and that's I think that's how I found you. Or you may have been on the Alex. Have you been on the Alex and Annie podcast?
No, actually, I haven't been on that one.
Okay.
It's like the one I haven't gotten on, which is funny. I should probably ping Annie about that.
Yeah. Well, Alex. So I'm in Myrtle Beach, and this is Alex Husner. I'm good friends with her.
Oh, nice.
So I'll have to link you guys up. But good deal. Well, I appreciate you coming on, and thanks so much for your time. It was fun. For everybody listening, please leave a like and comment what you liked about this. And I appreciate it so much, and I'll see you guys on the next.